The Rode wireless mic too, so let's get into it. What I love about this guy is I can either have... Let's try and break that shot down. Fair warning, I am assuming you have a good understanding of how After Effects works. I'm not gonna go step by step. I'm just showing the concepts that I used in order to make this shot happen, because depending on how you shoot it in your location, the results will vary. Anyways, that being said, let's pull up the screen recording. One thing to note, I did plan this shot out ahead of time. I knew I wanted to throw it up in the air and that I would replace the sky later and then drop it down in another location. So I got my two shots, the one of me, and then I had Blake, who is my camera guy. He had to time his pan up with the camera. He would end up on the sky at the end of the shot, and he just held it for a few seconds. And then the second shot had him start in the sky, and then I would throw the mic in the air. He knew to follow it down to my hand, and then I started talking and doing my bit after that. So I needed to shoot the mic element, which I just did on my porch here. I pointed the camera at the sky, shot it in 60 frames. I just used my hand. You could like tape it to a stick or something, but I knew with the round edges it would be pretty easy to roto out. And then with those elements collected, we hop over to After Effects. I found a piece of where I thought the mic might work best, and I just kind of like loosely put it there. And then I grabbed the shot where it ended and just alt left bracket that. Then I used the roto brush to roto the mic out, and then found out that didn't really work too well, so I just ended up freeze framing it and just making a cutout of it. From there, I leave that layer alone real quick while I go and figure out how I'm gonna do the sky. I ended up freeze framing when the camera gets to the top of the motion, masking around that, duplicating it a few times, blend it together and get a sky because I knew that the sky would be in motion. Then I made a null that connected everything together. After that, I found a sky image for the top of the sky because it would change, because scientifically you're going through different layers of sky, so it would change color, I guess. And then blending that in with the other sky, that was just messing around to mask the size, mess around with a few different color correction options to try and get everything to blend just right. And then after that, it was just a lot of fine tuning the camera movement to get the sky just how I wanted it to look, which just turned out to be too awesome for my computer that the After Effects decided to crash. So I went in the shower, cried, and then I took the day off and came back the next day. But then when we were back in After Effects the next day, shot's starting to look pretty decent, but something is off. Can you guess what it is? That's right, it's probably the rotation. Threw the mic in the air, and right now the fake mic is just going straight up. If you were going to throw something in the air, it would naturally rotate. So I messed around with those keyframes, added motion blur, directional blur, and then keyframed it to match into where it took off from my hand. So that way when it goes in the air, the motion blur will hide the cut where it becomes real to fake. Now we have a mic that's being thrown in the air and looks just a little more realistic because we added that curving rotation movement. So I get that looking just right when it gets to the apex where it wants to fall back down. So then that's a whole nother set of keyframes. For that, I had to rebuild the sky so that it would match the other sky. Because it was about to rain that day, the sky was drastically getting darker and darker each time. Basically just used the same concept at the top of that frame. I duplicated, then freeze framed that layer, masked around it, duplicated that layer a bunch to then blend in the sky to fit better into the scene. Color corrected, moved around the mask and all that. And this is where I decided to freeze frame the mic. I suggest doing that from step one to avoid a whole headache of an extra day that you didn't need. Once I freeze frame it, I would keyframe the position at the bottom of it to match when it's coming into my hand. It basically hides the cut of real to fake. And once you have all that stitched together, it's just a matter of playing around with those keyframes so you get that gravity look to look just right, because you're kind of faking it, like it comes up to this apex where it's like stuck in slow motion and then it comes back down. Isn't really a real thing that would happen. So you just have to kind of play around with it until it feels right to you. And once all that's done, my timeline ends up looking like this. And then the final thing I did was add that white streak when it gets to the top. That was just a white solid with a quick mask. I used the position keyframe to get it to go across. And then I duplicated that freeze frame cutout that I have, used it as an alpha matte to that solid, so the solid just appears on the surface of the Rode microphone. And then you have a shot that looks like this. So let's get into it. What I love about this guy is I can either have it wireless like this. Side note, the very first one didn't line up with the music cue that I had chosen. I actually went like 3 seconds over because I wasn't really thinking to actually time it to what I was going to do. But it was just the same concept. I just had to fine tune those keyframes to really like get together. Yeah, I'm really bad at tutorials apparently. But I thought that would be a good insight into how I achieved that effect without getting too super technical, because doing effects like that, you just have to kind of try it yourself. It's not going to help you to just copy the exact numbers people inputted on their shots, because when you go shoot something, it's not going to look exactly how I shot it or someone else shot it. So yeah, any tutorials you see on this channel, I'm just going to assume you have a base knowledge of the editing in that program, which would be Premiere or After Effects. But if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit like, subscribe, all that, leave a comment, let me know what tutorial you'd like to see next. Until then, go make something. Does that work? I don't know, does that work as my outro thing?
This guy, the Rode Wireless Mic 2.